we are their DBAs. And so we have responsibilities at the SQL Server level and the SharePoint Server level that kind of fall under the purview of a DBA. We do the initial setup and installation. We do the backup of the SQL Server. We're in charge of installing and configuring any maintenance plans or maintenance tasks that might be necessary for those applications on the SQL Server instance. And whenever we build applications that use SQL as a backend, instead of using SharePoint as a backend, we're also in charge of maintaining those tables and doing any sort of cleanup and everything from the creation to the maintenance of those tables. And as far as our SharePoint Server responsibilities, they sort of fall in a little bit of a DBA world as well. You know, we create lists, we create schemas using SharePoint lists, and we're also in charge of archiving and maintaining the performance of those applications at the SharePoint list level. So those are just some of the responsibilities that fall under our sort of umbrella that might be considered DBA-style responsibilities. And there are best practices to follow, when you are taking on these DBA responsibilities that pay dividends for us. Of course, when you set up SQL correctly and when you actually set up SQL in a way that is beneficial to SharePoint as far as data access goes, you get SharePoint performance out of the box. You get, let's see, the custom application performance. Like I said before, sometimes we build applications on top of custom tables. And really, the user experience is dictated by application and the database working in tandem. So, you might have the slickest code around, but if your database is set up badly, that's not going to matter to the user how great your code is. In the end, the user experience is what's going to matter the most, and you're going to spend a lot of time trying to roll back and fix a lot of problems that could have been prevented just by following database best practices in the first place. Scalability, and especially with regards to large lists in SharePoint, we make jokes about SharePoint performance and how it uses SQL to store content in content databases, but you can get quite a bit of performance, use out of a SharePoint list as a backend, and it's manageable through the UI, which is useful. But you have to make sure that you design it and maintain it in a scalable way. And in the ways that these things pay dividends and following best practices pay dividends, it really helps our customer relationship, especially when it comes to keeping IT on our side. The first time you end up eating up an entire hard drive, with useless logs or indexes, or you're not following some sort of backup and recovery plan, they're going to blame us, and that hurts our client relationship. But on the other hand, if you focus on, following those best practices and keeping everything performant and building maintenance plans and keeping all these best practices in mind, builds a really good relationship in that, they never have to come to us saying, you're eating up like 100% of my CPU constantly with your SQL instance, or you are, just chewing through all our RAM and I don't understand why. And keep the end users amazed in that, excuse me, we build those performant applications, we build great code, and our databases are great to match that great code, and it keeps the users happy.